Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Garth Langley. I'm the Public Affairs Officer for San Francisco Fleet Week. Thank you all for being here for the kickoff press conference for the 2015 and 35th Annual San Francisco Fleet Week. The conduct of this press conference will be speaking engagements by city and civic leaders. Immediately following the press conference, there will be media availability. There will not be a question and answer portion. At this time, I'd like to introduce Louis Lubin, the Executive Director of San Francisco Fleet Week.
Thank you, Garth. Garth is our public affairs officer, and he is a fabulous voice for Fleet Week. So thank you, Garth. We're here on a MARAD ship in follow-up to a disaster response exercise in which we had joint civilian-military cooperation being demonstrated, both government and private sector, on how we would move assets across the bay in a catastrophic environment where, in the scenario, bridges and highways are out, and we needed to get supplies into the city. And that's one of the things that Fleet Week is about, the Humanitarian Assistance and Disaster Response Program. We've been running training exercises since 2010, tabletop exercises. We have the Senior Leaders Seminar that takes place during Fleet Week, where senior leaders who are experienced in disaster response come together to share best practices. We have the best cooperation between the military and civilians going on in this city, and our very, very strong partners, the City of San Francisco, their Department of Emergency Management, the Port of San Francisco. And of course, we have the great events, the celebrations of our sea services, our men and women in uniform. We have the wonderful Blue Angels that fly. We have Fleet Fest going on Pier 80 this year with live music. 4 ships will be tied up at that pier. So the men and women who are staying on those ships, they'll have a nice environment of food trucks, beer gardens, and live music as they work their way towards the city. And the public will be there to greet them and mix with them. We have the parades. We have band concerts going on all around town. We have the High School Band Challenge on Monday of Fleet Week, in which 8 high school bands from the Greater Bay Area play at the Golden Gate Park Band Shell after the Marine Corps Band plays. And we award prize money for the winning bands. They're judged by professional band judges, and we provide money for their high school music programs. So Fleet Week has an array of activities beyond the Blue Angels, and we're very pleased to be able to do that. One of the greatest friends of Fleet Week and one of the greatest supporters of the disaster response program is the San Francisco Mayor, Ed Lee. And I'm just going to go straight to introducing him and letting him come up here. So Mayor Lee, please come to the podium. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Louis, to you and the committee and General Mayed for just your wonderful and great leadership. Welcome to San Francisco. What a day, huh? I know that everybody that serves here loves coming to San Francisco, and we love welcoming. And let me just say from the outset, it is our tradition, it is our pleasure, it is our honor to celebrate and to thank our women and men in uniform here right in San Francisco. And I want to take this opportunity to thank now Senator Feinstein, but then Mayor Feinstein, who resurrected our Fleet Week and made sure, and every mayor since that time, including your own today, embraces this entire week because we always will pray and hope that we never are visited upon by disaster. And one way that helps us is to have a strong military force to make sure our defense are clear and that we celebrate our men and women who also serve in that capacity. We've also taken the tremendous opportunity that we're presented with Fleet Week and made it, in addition to that, one of the most active Fleet Weeks that we can imagine. It's not just with the events that Louis identified as well, but in collaboration with our Department of Emergency Management, our fire department, our police department, all of the agencies from Muni to Public Works, to the volunteers at Red Cross, to the tremendous community collaboration that we've built over years when we had naval landing crafts appear on Ocean Beach or in the marina. We continue the very special practice of making sure that we create the relationships that are necessary in case an event were to happen in San Francisco or the Bay Area. I don't think, Leuven, any other part of the country not only celebrates this Fleet Week like we do, but also takes that opportunity to make sure we practice all the things that we want to do in case an event, man-made or natural. And we're looking at, obviously, earthquakes, we're looking at El Nino winter, we're looking at all kinds of things that could happen that we would want to have practiced already, those very things that we want to have happen on the shores and within the boundaries of San Francisco. That means questions like, how do we bring emergency workers back into the city in time? How do we triage those that will be injured and on their own in the first 72 hours? How do we not make sure we don't have pockets of isolation in the city? And it begins with something that I know the military is well known to, of course. Defense of our country is what they're most known for. But I also think that the military, including all of the different divisions and our Coast Guard, are most known to be logistics experts. They can get things to where people need them in the instant of time when they need them. And we've been working on that because we've been finding out as we work on landing crafts and what can fit on them. And just this morning, to follow up with a desktop exercise of last week on a 7.4, I think, Ann, earthquake simulation, 7.5, that we also wanted to have landing crafts that would bring supplies in, would bring trucks from other agencies in, not just the military trucks that are staged here, but if you look at all the collaboration that we've done, you'll see Red Cross vehicles, you'll see port vehicles, you'll see, of course, our emergency vehicles and our PG&E vehicles, all in an effort to make sure supplies and emergency responders are there in any part of the city that they could help in and restore as quickly as possible. You know why it takes practice? Because this morning we found out that certain types of vehicles that a local utility company has couldn't necessarily get on the level in which that landing craft was going to land in the city. I know that's going to cause that utility to work even closer with us to make sure they have the right vehicles and to make sure that they can respond when we need them. These are times in which that should be found out, not during the disaster event itself. And this is exactly why practice and simulations and relationship building with our military partners is so valuable to a city like San Francisco. We are 3/4 surrounded by water. We will know, and we often expect that traffic will be stopped for many variety of reasons. And so we've got to take the advantage of these landing crafts and all the other military type vehicles that might be accessible to us. And I want to say a great thanks. Joe Sabo, who's here from the Maritime Association, that's with us, more than observing, but hopefully helping us critique the things that we can do with our maritime friends. And then to Rear Admiral Filion and his wonderful staff with our Navy and our fleet, I want to say a special thank you to them because the relationships we're building, and it's not just the mayor and the high command. You got to know the logistics people on the ground, the actual people that run this ship are talking directly with the people that run our city on a day-to-day basis and make sure that the logistics folks and the technical folks and the engineers are talking with each other. More than handshakes, they're exchanging practices that will necessarily be experienced in a large event. This is invaluable to any city. I ask every other city in the Bay Area and the country to do the exact same. Because without that practice, without the names and the agency associations, generally the first 72 hours is confusion. It is misdirection. It is one saying the other and maybe experience command structures that aren't complementary to each other. in a major disaster, there has to be one set of commands that go out and obeyed and carry forth. This is what our military does best, and this is why we want to work with them and have our fire department work with them, our police department, our emergency responders. When you have a chance, in addition to all the lovely, beautiful things from the Blue Angels to these vehicles that are here, to the military vehicles and ships that are here during the week, take a look also at something that some special unit of firefighters, our fire department, our MTA, and our Department of Emergency Management has done in converting a Muni bus. This bus, upon a large emergency, is already re-outfitted with the tremendous amount of work that the MTA staff and engineer and shops people did with our DEM and all of the other responders. It's parked right outside on the wharf, and take a look at what they have there. They have converted a bus. You know, we're good at converting buses, by the way, old buses. You know, we have showers for people who need them. We have pit stops in different parts of the city. This one is equipped to cover up to 12 people right there, lying down with all of the equipment to save, prolong, and improve their lives. And these buses will definitely be on time. They are, and they say SF Fire Department on them, even though they look like the regular buses. They've got all the right emergency lights and systems on there. And the fire department, I think, is very proud that they'll have this additional tool in which to reach casualty victims all over the city. And this is smart. It is inventive. It is just the right thing to do. I ask that you all take a look at that as well, because it's one of the newer things that we've been able to do, again, in collaboration of how to get services to people on time. I am so thrilled to have our military women and men here in San Francisco on the occasion of Fleet Week. But I know it extends well beyond a celebration and support for them. It's in recognition of their role that we practice these things. And I can't say enough thanks to the entire Fleet Week Association that's being led by Lewis and by General Myatt, and all of the wonderful ideas they keep coming up with that allow the citizens and the residents and the visitors of the city to feel more comfortable, more confident, and more embracing of what we do with events like Fleet Week. Let's celebrate. Let's identify the things we have to do. Let's practice in understanding what people's roles are in these efforts to prepare better. Let's also remind our public, the first 72 hours, you've got to go to the 72hour.org website to find out what you should do to complement the entire brigade of people here that are doing and what they're doing to help this city and to help the region. Thank you for celebrating Fleet Week. I can't be more excited. Look forward to an entire week of this wonderful weather. And of course, the crack open the skies with the Blue Angels. Congratulations, everybody. Thank you.
Mayor Lee, on behalf of the San Francisco Fleet Week Association, I thank you. I mean, you are an inspiration, and you're a great supporter. And the words that he speaks, he believes. I've seen it demonstrated. Thank you very much to you and to your entire city government. It's been just wonderful. Yes, thank you. Next up, we have this whole array of organizations represented behind me. And the San Francisco Fire Department, every year, they host on Treasure Island at their academy over there urban search and rescue training for small unit leaders of the military. They go over there and they spend a day with the fire department learning techniques on how to dig people out of rubble. And it's a very important thing to learn. And so these folks from the military, these small unit leaders, become capable of leading urban search and rescue missions if they were ever called upon, especially in the international situations. One of the great supporters of San Francisco Fleet Week is Fire Chief Joanne Hayes-White, and I'll ask her to come up here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's quite an honor and privilege to be here to offer some remarks as we begin Fleet Week. A lot of people to acknowledge and thank. First and foremost, our great mayor, Edwin Lee. I can tell you he has quite a bit of credentials, but I think as being a former department head in Department of Public Works, he truly gets it. He's into and prioritizes public safety always, and he always has a preparedness message, and that's what today is really about. I'd also like to acknowledge the Fleet Week Association for their great efforts in welcoming men and women in the U.S. military. And I'd like to personally acknowledge men and women in the U.S. military that put their lives on the line each day, make huge sacrifices to be away from their families, and you are so welcome here in San Francisco. Thank you for what you do. Similarly, I'd like to acknowledge the local public safety providers, the men and women in San Francisco Fire Department. I'm joined here, rode in with him today with Police Chief Sir and the men and women of the San Francisco Police Department for the efforts and sacrifices that you make to keep our city safe. It's all about partnerships. We wouldn't be here today without the Fleet Week Association, but also without the Department of Emergency Management under the direction of their leader, Ann Cronenberg. They're the civilian organization that gets us all together, practicing, preparing, and building those relationships. As Mayor Lee said, it is about partnerships. It's about teamwork. All of us exemplify that every day, but it's to reach out to other agencies. We're delighted once again to host on Wednesday a USAR drill, Urban Search and Rescue, out at our Treasure Island training facility. All of you are welcome to come out and observe. Similarly, on Thursday, we'll be providing the training on Wednesday, and on Thursday we'll be learning. We're going to be doing some shipboard firefighting. We're so thrilled to again partner this year and get closer and closer. I just spent the last 5-10 minutes getting to know Rear Admiral Daniel Fillion, and I'm so impressed with his credentials, his dedication to our country. As Mayor Lee said, after you have the opportunity to view this ship, we're very proud with partnerships like with MTA. So the men and women in uniform get a lot of props, particularly this week. But Municipal Transportation Agency, we have Deputy Director here behind me, Neil Pop, representing the MTA. Without the MTA and without the grant that we received, you wouldn't see the bus that you see down below. It's state of the art. It's the only one of its kind in the state. And as the mayor said, it will transport 12 critically injured people. A total of 23 patients can be treated and transported given a mass casualty incident, or for drills, or for warm days like today. We have another tool in the toolbox. We actually have two because we received that donation from MTA. So thank you for that partnership. I think it's a perfect illustration of what this week is all about, working together, preparing together, and being ready for anything that may come our way. Thank you. Enjoy the week.
Thank you, Chief. MARAD came into our fold last year. The Deputy Administrator for MARAD came into our Senior Leaders Seminar and talked about the capabilities of MARAD and what their role is in disaster response situations. And now they're part of the exercise program. And hosting us on the MARAD ship today is the Executive Director of MARAD, Joel Zabat. Joel.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Lee. We want to thank the City of San Francisco for inviting the Maritime Administration to host this kickoff for Fleet Week on board one of our vessels here. But most importantly, for inviting us in and other civilian agencies in to participate as part of Fleet Week. That one of the lessons that we've learned is the importance of coordination among both the military and the civilian side, whether it's for disaster response or to meet our national security needs. I want to give a special shout out to our two Andrews, who are both the captain and the chief engineer of the vessel. We have a crew of only 10 people who maintain this vessel in peacetime until it's mobilized for whatever purpose that it's needed for. And the Maritime Administration manages 46 other vessels like this. Some of them are fast sea lift ships. These are vessels, as the name implies, that can sail as rapidly as the Navy needs them to, can keep pace with the warships of the Navy for rapid replenishment or supply and support. We have vessels that are called geared container ships. These are the vessels very important in the case of disasters and emergencies. They can unload cargo from their own vessel or from other vessels at ports if the port has been destroyed or damaged, or if there is no port there at all. But most of the vessels we have, and perhaps certainly the most versatile, perhaps the most valuable, are the vessels like on the deck of the one that we're standing right now, are roll-on, roll-off, or ro-ro vessels. You see behind me the type of equipment that can be moved quickly onto a vessel like this and then taken to a disaster area. My crew tells me that that represents 1/350th of the capacity of this vessel. So 350 times more vehicles than what you see right there can be loaded up and can be taken quickly in the case of an emergency, or if we have a national security need. So that's the need that we have. I mean, that's the capacity that we bring. And we are delighted, starting as Mayor Lee mentioned with last year, to become part of these planning exercises, working with our military and our civilian counterparts. By the end of this week, at the end of this week, you're going to see some of the most dramatic scenes that you can see of ships sailing in, of airplanes flying overhead. I'd ask you also, though, to remind yourselves as you see this, that even more impressive than the technology, even more impressive than the platforms that you'll see, are the men and women who serve them. The men and women in our military, but also the men and the women in our civilian agencies and in the private sector, like the men and women of the United States Merchant Marine. Since 1775, in peace and war, sailors, regular sailors, have been called upon to man these types of vessels and have always come when the nation has called. World War II, Vietnam, Korea, in the First and Second Gulf Wars, we've always had them whenever we've needed them to surge our vessels. They've always been there for us. And as long as we keep faith with those brave first responders, with those courageous service members in the military, and when the men and women of our Merchant Marine, they will always be there for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel, and thank you for hosting us on this ship. It is really an impressive deck to be out here and looking at all the equipment that you have displayed. I think it was Eisenhower who said that it's not the plan, but the fact that you went through planning together. And the Third Fleet and the ESG, that's Expeditionary Strike Group 3, they start planning with us all the way back, right after Fleet Week. We start planning for the next Fleet Week. They and the Marine Corps, 1st Marine Expeditionary Forces down at Camp Pendleton, Department of Emergency Management, their planners, they start getting together to talk about next year's Fleet Week and the drills and the exercises and the senior leader seminar programs. It takes a lot of work to plan the events, and with us here today is the commander of the Expeditionary Strike Group 3, Rear Admiral Daniel Fillion. If you could come up here.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for allowing us to be here. Right out of the chalks, I'd like to say to the mayor and the men and women of San Francisco, thank you so very, very much, sir, for having your United States Navy and your United States Marine Corps back here in San Francisco. Ladies and gentlemen, those young men and women that you will meet in the uniforms this week represent the best and the brightest, from my opinion. I'm a little biased. Our country has to offer. Every one of them, the youngsters, you think about this. When I joined the United States military, we were not at war. 6 years later, we were. Every man and woman you see in their 20s wearing a uniform, Coast Guard, Army, California National Guard, United States Marine Corps, United States Navy, had the courage to go to a recruiting office, raise their right hand, and enlist in the service of their country, knowing full good and well that we're going to go in harm's way. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a tremendous accomplishment in a man and woman's life I offer to you. If you see those folks, they're your Navy, they're your Marine Corps, they're your Army, they're your California Guard, they're your Coast Guard. I guarantee if you engage them, you'll be thoroughly, thoroughly impressed, and I ask you to do that. Mr. Mayor, we cannot thank you and the Fleet Week Committee enough for having us back here, sir. We're honored to be here. Thank you very, very much. The mayor framed exactly what we're doing here as aptly as anybody, and I can't top that. But what I'll share with you is this. That planning that we've just talked about, we do long before we ever get here and have the opportunity to talk to you here in San Francisco. Several months back, we were doing a LOAD-X. That's an abbreviation term, load exercise. We acronym everything in the military because it's just, we think it's cool, and quite frankly, it confuses us sometimes, okay? LOAD-X is a load exercise. We were practicing how quickly we could get all the equipment we would need to bring up here to support you, the men and women of San Francisco, your Navy and your Marine Corps, in the unfortunate event that a natural disaster had happened here. It's in the afternoon, it's hot, seasonably hot in San Diego, and a young Marine Lance Corporal is sopping wet, loading gear, strapping gear down on the ship. And I asked him if he knew what he was doing, and he said, yes, sir, I do. It'd be the most important mission of my life. Pretty powerful statement. I said, why is that, young man? Sir, I've done this overseas for other grateful countries. If I have to execute this mission here in California, I'm doing it for my countrymen. Pretty powerful statement, ladies and gentlemen, pretty powerful statement. Your United States military, we work for you in a disaster relief humanitarian assistance mission. That's what we do. We're ready to do it, and we're honored to do it. I cannot thank you enough for the hospitality we've already seen in the short time we've been here, and I promise you, engage your Navy, your Marine Corps, your Coast Guard, your California Guard. You'll be dutifully impressed. Mr. Mayor, we cannot thank you enough for the opportunity to be here working along with you to train for the event that we hope never happens. But if it happens, those relationships we're building today will get us through it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Be careful what lunch you're invited to when you attend. Back in 2010, I got a phone call from a good friend of mine who asked me to come to lunch at the Marines Memorial. We're going to talk about Fleet Week. I thought, okay, it'll just be me and him. But I showed up, and there was a conference room filled with volunteers, and there was an org chart with my name on it. That's how generals recruit their volunteers. We talked about creating a training program for the military, joint military and civilian disaster response. And I want to introduce to you the man who inspired me to stick with it, to create the program. Thank you, Major General Mike Myatt.
Thank you. We have a saying in the Marine Corps, never introduce yourselves on the battlefield. Get to know each other before you have to fight together. That's what this is about. And it includes not only local people, but the Pentagon, the Office of Secretary of Defense, Headquarters Marine Corps, FEMA, NORTHCOM, and all of the people of the agencies they've been mentioned here previously. I want to thank everybody for their participation, and I'm so grateful for picking Louis Lubin to be the executive director. But thank you very much. And we have partnerships with the Verizon, with PG&E, with Academy of Art University that provides the transportation. So we use everybody here, and everybody does it willingly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General, and thank you for that lunch. It was really good. I want to just say thank you to a number of folks. And General mentioned PG&E and Verizon. They are true partners in this program. When you think about it, if you can't communicate, well, you can't command, you can't coordinate. And Verizon is out there painstakingly making sure that their wireless networks and wireline networks work, that the data networks that we all depend on, that they work as well. And you know what? Verizon can't really do a lot without power, and PG&E is another strong partner over the years, participating in the execution of the exercise programs. And so I really want to thank PG&E and Verizon for their support. I also want to say, and I just want to run down a list here, because these folks are here, and they are here to do post-formal presentation interviews. They're available from the Police Department, Chief Greg Sir, Department of Emergency Management, Ann Cronenberg, who I talk to 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day, making sure this program is going to take off and be successful. The Department of Public Works, Mohammed Naru, Bay Area Urban Security Area Security Initiative, Greg Dedzik, California National Guard, is Colonel Spano here? Well, California National Guard is here. Brian Kelly from Transportation, Jody Travisero, the Regional Administrator for California Office of Emergency Services, FEMA Region 9, the Defense Coordinating Officer, a very strong friend of Fleet Week, Colonel Greg Butts, Mr. Robert Fenton, who is new on board, but we know him as a speaker from the past. He is now the Regional Administrator for Region 9, FEMA Region 9. The Army Corps of Engineers, General Mark Toy, the Coast Guard's Rear Admiral Joseph Servideo, United States Marine Corps, Colonel Philip Freitz, whose men have been up here helping us to plan throughout, Evermary Hickey from PG&E, Eric Reed from Verizon. I want to thank all of them and let you know that they are available for post-conference discussions, and also that tours of the ship are available after this. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Very much appreciate it. Thank you to the speakers and everybody behind me.